Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport. It is a Wednesday afternoon, and we are starting to really build up towards this weekend. Wales have named their side, Springboks have named their side. There's a lot happening in the rugby world at the moment. We're going to be talking about a lot today. We're going to be talking about MOODIE and whether he's a potential World Cup starter. We're going to be talking about Owen Farrell and whether he got lucky with that decision, which I definitely think he does. We're going to be talking a little bit about Wales and Warren Gatland looking to build depth this weekend, which is an interesting concept. We're building depth against the current world champions, for example. And we're going to be talking about the Scotland squad. World Cup squad has been unveiled. So we're talking a little bit about that as well. And just a little bit about sort of the general thing that's sort of going on. So if you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash like on the video. Subscribe as well if you are new. And the question I'm asking you guys in the comments is, should MOODIE be a starter at the World Cup? Now, I'm not talking about against a Romania, for example. I'm talking about when we play against Scotland, for example, or when we play against Ireland. If you play in the World Cup final tomorrow, would you start Canan Moodie? Would you think about starting Canan Moodie? You know, has he impressed you enough in the last few games to warrant being potentially backed as a core member, core starter? You know, with the likes of like a Francois Herbert, for example, and a Villaroo, you know, players you just know will start. Is he there yet? Is he potentially an ace up the sleeve? A hidden asset that we could potentially unleash during the World Cup, or are we getting too caught up in the hype, and we need to realize that he is still 20 years old and he's maybe not quite there yet? And there's no real wrong answer to be answered. But it is exciting to see the fact that a year ago we were talking about, Curtly Arendse could be putting on pressure on Makazuma Pimpi. All of a sudden, we've suddenly had a couple of games with Canan Moodie, and all of a sudden we actually don't know who our starting wing should be. We probably all know that it's basically who partners Ches and Colby, but who that partner will be, that remains to be seen. And it's a very exciting and a good place to be in, because you know, around the other squad, we've had more concerns. Like, for example, Flyhalf, outside centre, there's more sort of concerns about options. They are not vast, not great. So you know, is the best of what we can do. This situation is, well, we've got so much depth, but we've got somebody who could be even better. So you know, you're now looking at choosing the best of a good bunch, as opposed to the best of a bad bunch, which is an exciting place to be in. Yeah, as I said, lots to talk about, and in the next sort of half an hour, if you haven't missed it, Wales have announced their side. We'll talk about it over here, but it is up on the channel as well. Also talking a little bit about Rassie Erasmus being potentially targeted by Ireland, and potentially looking to try and bring him in, which will be an interesting move. Again, interesting to sort of see the reaction, and where some people are saying yes, it'll be a great move. Some people say no, they don't think it'll be a good move. We'll talk a little bit about those rumors in the coming minutes as well. If you have any comments or questions about the lineups or sort of the situation, stuff like that, please do throw them in the comments. But I'm going to start with Canan Moodie. I'm going to start talking about the show. So the show title is MOODIE pushing for a World Cup place. Now, what I mean by that, as I said a little bit earlier, is has his man of the match performance against Argentina elevated him into the big conversations with regards to the World Cup starts in just over 3 weeks. We play on 3 weeks on Sunday. Does MOODIE start, for example? Has he put himself in the mix to potentially start in what the Boks have already come out and said is their most important game? It is the game that they are targeting. It's the game that they said that if they beat Scotland, it gives them a bit more leeway with regards to how the other games in the group go. So it's very much their biggest priority is that Scotland game. And as a result, you kind of expect to then see our strongest side within that game. So the question is, if we go with our strongest side, is Canan Moodie part of it? Now, I think 3 months ago, none of us would have said yes. Probably wouldn't even be a conversation. But I tell you what, this kid has looked so comfortable at international level and has yet to show any sort of signs of not being ready. I think against Australia, I think there were 1 or 2 times where positionally maybe he was slightly off. Against Argentina, though, he was absolutely brilliant. And again, you know, in terms of individual qualities, he's got it all. He's got it all. The biggest issue comes with the experience and understanding with regards to the system, you know, where to be and positionally, and the decisions he makes with regards to, you know, moving up into certain positions, you know, trying to sort of really make those big brave calls and whether he's ready to do that. So that's kind of, I suppose, where where he still needs to learn, and it's about understanding whether he's going to be able enough time to learn that and to be ready for that. So yeah, in terms of the comments, James Moriarty saying Moody's giving me France Day in 07 vibes minus the boot. So MC says that the Moody's high ball is great, his defense is great, his attack is great. Him and Orange are god tier, Pimpy and Colby to turn the tides. Tristan saying, I want the coaching staff to start Moody at 13 against the All Blacks. He'll do better than 13 against Awani. I think that's a huge shout. And I probably wouldn't have done that. I do think that Moody is very much set to move into the potential outside centre. And I do think we might start seeing that for the Bulls next season, especially given the fact that they've got so many outside backs. They've got Villiers, they've got Henry Immelman, for example. Jakob van der Walt coming at 10. So where's Johan Hussing going to potentially play? They've got Moody, they've got Orange, they've got Shuno Jacobs, they've got so many outside backs. I wouldn't surprise me that if we do see Moody shift to 13 next season. That would say, how's it be? Well, mentally said, I think you really should have spent the season playing outside centre. Yeah, so I think that'll be interesting to see with regards to next season, whether he does spend the season at outside centre and whether he does morph into an outside centre. So where I'm at with Moody is, if the World Cup final happened tomorrow, I probably wouldn't start. I don't know who I'd start, though, to be honest, because the big issue, and this is something that's sort of coming through now, is the idea of a short wing, tall wing type thing. Because from an attacking point of view, Kurt Lawrence, Ches, and Colby, offer you so much. From a defense point of view, I think they offer you as much. Kurt Lawrence has proven that he's a very capable defender. Despite his size, he's very capable. We all know that Ches and Colby is more than capable. So I think the biggest thing is with regards to our game plan, we had a Mapimpi and a Colby. And lately, we saw a couple of games with an Orange and a Colby. But then, we struggled in the air with regards to having the height and being able to get above other players. So that's what you get in a Kane and Moody and a Marcus and a Pimpy that you don't get in a Curtly Orange, Ches and Colby is the height. I mean, Kane and Moody sits at about 190 plus, so he's a tall wing. I think he'll still put on a bit of weight. He's probably still a bit light at the moment. I think he's sitting probably about 90 kgs. I reckon as the years go by, he'll probably put in a couple of kgs as he sort of really develops, and he's still a very young player. So against Wales, who have named big wings, by the way, as well as big centres, and we know it's going to go up in the air a lot, Kane Moody's going to have a lot to do. He's going to have a lot to prove outside this weekend. He's going to be up in the air a lot. He's going to be contending for a lot of high ball. And I think if he does a really good job, I think he does put a little bit of doubt into the coach staff with regards to, well, if we go with that idea of a tall wing and a short wing and somebody really go into the high ball, then all of a sudden you could be looking at, well, maybe we don't go with Pimpy, but we actually shift Ches and Colby to the 11, and all of a sudden we could be starting Kane and Moody. And, we were having these conversations about Kurt Lawrence and saying, how do you not play Kurt Lawrence, who's scoring at more than a try match? But maybe from a balance point of view, it's just, it's an Lawrence or Colby. And, you do have these situations where you sit there going, well, it's such a difficult decision to make because, Kurt Lawrence is in red hot form. How do you leave him out? But if the option is him or Colby, I mean, Colby's one of the best players in the world, so you're not going to leave him out. So that becomes a very interesting position to be in, where for specific positions, you leaving out players who are very much good enough to start, maybe should be starting, but from a balance point of view, it just doesn't make as much sense. So he's got an opportunity this weekend to really sort of prove and come out and show that he is ready to be a starter and to really sort of create that doubt and put that idea into the Springbok manager's head that, he's not just a squad player, he's actually very much ready to start. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he develops and how that goes this weekend and whether he can sort of make that kind of statement. So, yeah, it's as I said, if you look at the poll is going to be an interesting one, and a lot of people are saying, yeah, they back him. It is just for me amazing how we, literally about a month ago, we were talking about, Mapimpi's, in trouble, and because Kurt Lawrence is going to replace him. A month later, we're talking about, all of a sudden is Kurt Kenny Moody has to be in the mix, and we're not even talking about Kurt Lawrence anymore. So maybe there's a certain amount of fans of fickle, but that's a nice problem to be in, I think, and that's probably we'd like to be in a lot of positions where we're sitting there going, well, we've got 4 world-class players, you've got to choose 2, as opposed to, having maybe 1 world-class player in the position and you've got to find a second. So there's no doubt that from a wing perspective, we are absolutely sorted. Makazole Mapimpi, the fact that he's now almost 4th choice wing when you think of how good he's been. And I mean, if you look at his try scoring record, it's mental, absolutely mental, and how important he was to us in the last World Cup, scoring tries for fun, scoring the try that really won us the World Cup. Yes, kind of uncreative, but Pimpy still had to finish it. He scored a very important try against Japan, and all of a sudden he's become like a fourth choice option. So Kane Moodie has definitely sort of elevated chances. I think he's a guy who can play 100 tests for this box easy, and especially because he can play at wing. If he potentially becomes an outside centre, then you've got somebody who can play around the place. And we all know that in the current box setup, versatility is key. Versatility is gold. You want to become a regular member, make yourself versatile. Make sure if you can offer different things in different positions, you become absolute gold for the box. Double saying Moodie versus 200 area battle will be tough. Yeah, potentially against Scotland. James says versus Wales, you want the players best out of the high balls. So you want Moodie. To call it very much back into the shout. So MC saying we have 4 wins. I would pick 4 wings. I would pick. Love them all. The only thing I would say might not work in Mapimpi's favour is the others can play other positions in the back line. Mark Casey saying could be a utility player coming off the bench and with a bit of an unknown or surprise element to his play. Definitely. So in terms of that utility player, and I think the unknown surprise element is I think a lot of people looking back with Kurt Arendse as well. Maybe even Jasper Wiese to a certain degree. Yes, he's been playing for the last few years, but he's not an established international. And so you've got a couple of players, Grant Williams, for example, a little bit of a draw card in terms of we don't entirely know what to expect from them. So that gives us a certain amount of unpredictability, and you need a certain amount of unpredictability if you're going to win a World Cup. You need to be able to adapt and be able to offer something new at different times throughout the World Cup. Saturday lunchtime break, looking pretty lean there, Steve. Been hitting the gym. No, I've not been hitting the gym. Have been running a lot more than recently now that my knees allow me to, so appreciate it. Rugby saying that the chip over the top was world class by Mapimpi, perfectly weighted and great sight. He is a very valuable player, and this is the thing. It's never like we're at the point we're not going to slander any other wings. But it's just a case of in the best of a really great bunch, how do we get it right? And I don't actually have the answers, to be honest. And to be perfectly honest, I would be happy with any 4 of them starting. It doesn't matter who I saw. I don't think I'd look at any of them and be like, "Oh no, we should have gone with him." I'll be sitting there going, "Oh, fine, whatever." If you went with Colby and Pimpy, or if you went with Moodie, Arendse, you went with Moodie, Colby, Arendse, but Pimpy, I'd be pretty happy with any of those combos. To be honest, I do think that all 4. I don't think any of them will let us down. Put it that way. So it is a very good position to be in. And now it's about finding which combination and which players will suit us the best. From a player perspective, there's very little between them. So it's about, right, we've got 4 great players. They're all good enough. They all could be starting. Which one will suit our game plan the best? Which will be the best to put into our team? And that's how we need to make the calls here. Hamilton say, thanks for always keeping us informed, but I'm happy to help. As I said, these daily shows are going to become a lot more regular. And during the World Cup, we are hopefully going to be doing a daily World Cup show with all the various news, because it's going to be chaos. There's going to be a lot happening in that World Cup. Like I was saying, whereas I think Kurt Arendse, Moodie would have tried a step instead of doing a Pimpy chip. Horses for courses. I think that horses for courses is also a very important thing with regards to who do you play with regards to opposition and stuff like that. Why do the Lions have no players in the World Cup squad? Because any players that is good at the Lions leave the Lions and then they get called up for the World Cup squad there. Malcolm Marks, Franco Mostert, Quacha Smith. To name a few. But yes, no, it's a problem. I think that if he had stayed fit and had a great season, I think Henk van Beek could have been a bit of an outside shout. I think Jaden Hendrickson actually could have put himself in the mix as well if he had a great season and hadn't gotten injured. I think those are probably your 2 main ones. Moving forward, I do think that a Franco Horn will put himself in contention. I think Ruud Venter will become a Springbok eventually. And who else? Yeah, I think that's probably. I think Kieran Horn eventually will play for the Springboks as well. Eventually, I think he's a very talented player. Not anytime soon, I think, for a lot of those players. They're saying, if SA win the World Cup, will delay to the channel. Yeah, we said so yesterday, so we're going to hold you to it. Peter's saying, how do you think Chesney will perform on 11 as opposed to playing 14? Yeah, look at it. In theory, you should get more ball. In theory, as a number 11, you're there to finish. You're on the left wing. It makes more sense to go down the left hand side. It's obviously easier. So in theory, you should get a lot of opportunity. I'm interested to see how it goes, and obviously from a defensive perspective, he doesn't have he might not necessarily have as much as he will if he was on the other wing, but he's going to be opposite Alex Cuthbert, who's a giant and a veteran and a very good player. So that's going to be a very good battle in itself. I mean, you're talking about somebody who's about 2 meters tall, over 100 kgs, 57 caps or whatever it is, from in terms of Alex Cuthbert. So that'd be quite a cool little a battle, as Alex Cuthbert has an opportunity to prove his fitness in his 30s. So he's been around the block. But yeah, so that says Imagine Moodie at 15. Just HODL saying Ruan Fenty will be a box soon. And Piro Gianti, I really like to see Piro Gianti get back in that mix. So yeah, that's enough about Moodie. Other things, Owen Farrell, in case you've missed it. Yeah, Owen Farrell has gotten away with a tackle, and it's causing a lot of debate, a lot of chat, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous, to be perfectly honest. I cannot understand where they find the mitigation factors. I cannot understand what evidence and submissions that he and his legal representative could have made to have had that red card rescinded. I think it is absolutely ludicrous, and I think it makes a bit of a mockery of the entire process. I think it's a very dangerous precedent, because we're talking about a player, and I take exception to one of the England coaches, so the defense coach. So Kevin Sinfield, who's the England defense coach, came out in his defense and said that the challenges are anomalies, saying, "I know how hard Owen is working on his tackle technique. I know what he has done through the Six Nations and with the Saracens. This is a guy who wants to improve and get better. He has made one mistake. Let's just park that. He has made one mistake. Players are human. Owen has worked incredibly hard since our last incident in January. Oh, he's made one mistake. No, he made a mistake 8 months ago in the same year. He has probably been involved in about 2,000 tackles. I think that's very much be optimistic. I mean, 2,000 tackles. We're talking about a player who's played maybe 20 games since January, and I mean, 2,000. Yeah, so in training and stuff like that, cool. But in matches, if he's making 10 matches a day, he's been involved in well less than 200 tackles, probably about 130 to 140 tackles at a push, on field tackles, and he's now hammered Tane Basham, who thankfully is okay. We're playing this weekend, and he says, "I've overseen the vast majority of them as he has been with us. He has been exceptional. Referees got things wrong. No, they didn't. We all get things wrong in this room. We know that. And Owen is funeral. They did not get things wrong. This is what pisses me off. They did not get things wrong. The TMO was right. He should have been red carded. And I don't know, looking at the at the mitigation, they talked about JV George having an effect and change of angles. I'm sorry, I've watched it over and over again, and for me, there's absolutely nothing major which justified that tackle. It was a bad technique, it was a bad position, and he should have gotten a ban for it. And if he had gotten a ban for it, it would have been his fourth ban for a high tackle. He's been banned for a total of 10 weeks across 3 different sanctions for this. This is not it's a one-time thing. This is not. He's a repeat offender. He is a repeat offender. He literally wouldn't be allowed to use the tackle score option because he's already done it. And for me, I think World Rugby should be stepping into it and saying, because there was an independent inquiry, and they should be saying, no, actually, we're not happy. We're going to put in our own inquiry, and I think they should have had to have a ban of some sort, because I think that looking at that incident, I think it sets a very dangerous precedent moving into the World Cup, because now you're going to sit there saying, well, if that's not a red card, that's just a yellow card, then so many other instances during the World Cup will have to be treated in a similar vein. So I think the TMO on the day got it completely right. I think the yellow card upgrade to the red card was perfectly handled. In fact, I thought it was the perfect demonstration of just how much value that this TMO bunker system could have. I really enjoyed the fact that it was right. Cool. Let's go and it's a yellow card. We've seen foul plays. It's yellow cards. Cool. You're gonna go to yellow card, and while you're down there, we're going to have a look at the incident and the TMO bunker, and then we're gonna make a decision. So that's what they did, and they then decided the TMO had 5 minutes to look at it at a 10-second incident, or 5-second incident really. And within those 5 minutes, decided, no, there is foul play, there's no mitigation, it's a high tackle, it's a red card, and therefore the referee upgraded him to a red card, and he went in there. And I went there and I thought, you know what? For all that we hammer referees and we tell referees to get something wrong, that they handled brilliantly. It was the perfect example of why the TMO bunkers were brought in and how to handle an incident properly. There's foul play, it's a yellow card, we'll check it, and it was bad enough, so it is a red card, therefore get out of there. We didn't spend too much time over it. There was 2 or 3 minutes looking at 2 minutes I think it was, looking at the yellow card, but we didn't spend 4 or 5 minutes, up to 10 minutes going over sort of slow angles, deciding, is it a red card? No. We saw enough for the referee to say, I'm happy with the yellow card. Now, TMO, you're going to make the call if it's a red card. The TMO did make the call as a red card, which I think was the right decision. I think it was a fair decision, and they upgraded it. So, for me, what should have been the textbook example of why this innovation from the bunker is so good has now been made a mockery of, because they decided that it wasn't actually correct. An independent decision, by the way, not a World Rugby decision. And then they said, that we shouldn't criticize the referees. And now you've got the England defense coach coming out there saying referees make mistakes. And I'm saying it wasn't a mistake. I'm saying that we had actually got a really good example of referees and officials getting it right, and they then decided that it was a mistake, which I don't think it was. And now all of a sudden, that perfect example of what is a good innovation and good example of officiating is now made a mockery of. And we sort of continue to now move into a World Cup with so much ambiguity, and we sit there going, well, now we actually don't know what a red card is. So now we're going into the World Cup not understanding what is a red card, what isn't a red card, and that is going to create issues. It's not a good look for the game, and it's a problem we're going to have to address going into the World Cup. But yes, enough about Owen Farrell, because we can talk about him all day, and I did put a video out yesterday. So Wales announced their side, and I'm not going to go through it because I put a video up there, and I'm going to put it. Obviously, the preview will come out tomorrow. But a couple of interesting decisions. Dan Biggers at fly half. Mason Grady in as Johnny Williams in, very inexperienced centres. Rio Dyer comes in. Henry Thomas is there, I think, on debut. There's a debut for Kai Evans off the bench. There's a lot of inexperience in the likes of Kieran Azarati and Corey Demachowski. So literally, there's no doubt Warren Gatland is genuinely building depth. He is genuinely looking at trying to see where his squad is and what options he has for this weekend. So it's and I think he had to. It's easy to look at the Springboks and go, world champions. Not 2 more games until the World Cup. This is now we have to play my best team. But I think he's gone and said, no, you know what? I'm actually not there yet. I'm not ready to know my best team. I still need to get some answers to some questions about players. And I'm going to use the ultimate test of playing the current world champions to do that. So I think he's gotten it right, to be honest. As I said, for me, it'll be very easy to go and play a team that could beat the Springboks. But he wants to find a team that... is going to go far in the World Cup. So he's going to happy to sacrifice the World Games in the pursuit of that. So anyway, so going down the comments, so MC saying, Sasha was saying apparently stepping into a player's mitigation. So MC says, if England win the World Cup, I bet my club here in England, I'm going to have to do the sink. It's a final brutal, safest bet of my life, though no way they're winning it. Sasha saying the team was right. Matthew Dixon saying, tell me you paid off the disciplinary committee without telling me you paid off the disciplinary committee. Sasha saying, Farrell will cost England in the future, so I'm not that stressed. Dave saying, I'm not particularly familiar with the Wales setup, but it looks like it's partly experimental, very experimental, but good side, still a very good side. So I think they'll still offer us a pretty decent test this weekend, but there's no doubt that Warren Gatland is definitely still looking for answers rather than just going out there to get a result. Another cool sort of update is that Scotland have named their World Cup squad. From a South African perspective, South African-born players, Duhan van der Merwe, Carl Steyn, VPNL, as well as Pierre Schoeman are all there. Jamie Ritchie has been named as the captain. It's a very strong squad. I think a squad that we kind of probably expected. So it's Ewan Ashman, Jamie Batty, Dave Cherry, Luke Crosby, Scott Cummins, Rory Darge, Jack Dempsey, Matt Ferguson, Xander Ferguson, Grant Gilchrist, Richie Gray, VPNL, Jamie Ritchie, Pierre Schoeman, Yavon Sebastian, Sam Skinner, Rory Sutherland, George Turner, Hamish Watson, very nice forwards in there. And in the backs are Darcy Graham, Chris Harris, big Chris Harris fan. I'd like to see him getting a bit more opportunity, although Hugh Piloto is so cool. Ben Healy, George Horn, Hugh Jones, Blair Kinghorn, Ali Price, Cameron Redpath, Finn Russell, Ollie Smith, Carl Steyn, Sionchu Piloto, Duhan van der Merwe, and Ben White. It's a very, very strong side. It's a very strong squad. It's a squad that's going to potentially try and cause some upsets. So very keen to see how they go. And yeah, I think it's probably one of the strongest positions I think Scotland's ever been going into a World Cup. Which from this, yeah, not good for us. Because I think they'll be even more competitive, but it's cool. So in terms of players who have featured at a World Cup, Xander Ferguson's been there, George Turner's been there, Scott Cummings, Hamish Watson, Darcy Graham, Chris Harris, Blake Kinghorn, George Horn, and Ali Price were all back there in 2019. As well as for previous World Cups, is Via Pennell's been there, Finn Russell's been there. It'll be his third tournament. Jack Dempsey played. We actually represented Australia and Japan 4 years ago. Richie Gregg, Ron Gilchrist. So there's quite a few players who have all played in previous World Cups. So it is quite a nice experienced squad in that regard. So yeah, I think they've got a nice mix of experience as well as X Factor and Grant. I think they've got everything they need to actually be really competitive. So yeah, let's hope that they're not as too competitive against us, and that when they do kick in, it is against an island or something. Last thing I want to talk about a little bit is that there is a Barbarians game this weekend against Mani Samoa, and there are a host of South Africans playing in it, which is very cool. They are Herschel Yankees, Joseph Weber, and Jean-Luc Dupré, as well as then Andre Hugo Venter, Reniel Hugo, and Dylan Richardson. So yeah, 6 South Africans involved in that Samoan game. Very cool to see the likes of players who are on standby for the World Cup in Herschel Yankees, Joseph Weber, and Jean-Luc Dupré getting some game time, so that they won't be coming in. They have a little bit of extra game time going into if they need to go into the World Cup. And then Andre Hugo Venter, upcoming hooker there, Reniel Hugo and Dylan Richardson, who are all part of the Sharks setup, or Reniel Hugo and Dylan Richardson part of the Sharks setup. Richardson technically Scottish at these days. But yeah, so if you want to try and, I'm sure there'll be a stream for it. We'll try and find a way for you guys to watch it. But hopefully we can, those players put in a good shift and represent South Africa pretty well. But yeah, so we're going to wrap up there. If you have any questions, stuff like that, put them in the comments and we'll try and address it tomorrow in a live show. We'll also be hopefully live for our fan forum tomorrow evening. So that should be quite cool. But until then, smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and I will see you guys.